Welcome to the Learning Quest channel. I'm your host Salim Akhtar Malik. Learning Quest is an educational channel that provides you quality learning on management and social sciences. It helps you in reinforcing your knowledge by adding to what you have already gained in your university or college. You can get the transcripts or hard copies of the tutorials by contacting me on the address flashed on the screen. The transcripts will be provided to you free of cost. You are requested to please subscribe to this channel. This is Organizational Behavior Tutorial 11. In this tutorial, I'll talk to you about conflict management. After viewing this tutorial, you will understand what is conflict, causes of conflict, types of conflict, the 5 stages of conflict resolution, negotiation, bargaining strategies, intercultural negotiations, and third-party negotiations. What is conflict? Conflict is a process that begins when one party perceives that another party has negatively affected or is about to negatively affect something that the first party cares about. Or it can be said that it is that point in an ongoing activity when an interaction crosses over to become an inter-party conflict. Traditional view of conflict is the belief that all conflict is harmful and must be avoided. Conflict encompasses a wide range of issues that people experience in organizations, such as incompatibility of goals. Incompatibility means mismatch. Difference over interpretations of facts and disagreements based on behavioral expectations. Causes of conflict are when there is poor communication, lack of openness, and failure to respond to employee needs. This causes conflict in organizations. According to the human relations experts, conflict is a natural and inevitable outcome in any group. I have talked to you that the traditional view about conflict is that it is harmful to the organization, whereas human relations experts think that conflict is not only a positive force in a group, but that it is absolutely necessary for a group to perform effectively. So some form of conflict is always good for the organization. Types of conflict. Functional conflict, a conflict that supports the goals of the group and improves its performance. Dysfunctional conflict, conflict that hinders group performance or that blocks or reduces group performance. Task conflict, conflict over content and goals of the work. Relationship conflict, conflict based on interpersonal relationships. And process conflict, conflict over how work gets done. There are 5 stages of conflict resolution process in any organization. In stage 1, there is potential opposition and incompatibility among the individuals and groups within the organization, which causes difference of opinion and therefore a conflict within the organization. Stage 2 is cognition and personalization. Cognition is the thinking process by which human beings perceive the things through their 5 senses and form personalized views about the issues. Stage 3 is intentions about handling the conflict, how various groups and individuals think that they should go about resolving the conflict. Stage 4 is behavior. It pertains to the human behavior in the resolution of conflicts. And 5, that is stage 5, is the outcomes, which is the outcome of the conflict resolution process. We will now discuss each stage of conflict resolution in detail. Stage 1, as we have discussed earlier, is the potential opposition or incompatibility within an organization that causes the conflict. The reasons for potential opposition or incompatibility are lack of communication due to semantic difficulties. Semantic difficulties are the lack of understanding the verbal communication, which creates misunderstandings and noise. Noise is the clutter which is caused, and it also creates confusion in understanding. So this is the lack of communication. Structure is related to the weaknesses within the structure, which includes size and specialization of jobs, jurisdictional clarity and ambiguity, member goal incompatibility, that is the difference between the member goals and the organization goals. Leadership styles, are these styles individual or participative? Reward systems, now there is a win-lose system where the reward is limited to the recipients. For example, the person of the month or the worker of the month reward. Dependence or interdependence of groups. And lastly, there are the personal variables such as differing individual value systems and personality types. Stage 2 is the cognition and personalization stage, where individuals, by making use of their five senses, form their opinions. And there are two types of conflicts that arise. One is the perceived conflict, which is the awareness by one or more parties of the existence of conditions that create opportunities for conflict to arise. So it is the perception through which individuals and groups form their opinions. And there is the felt conflict. Felt conflict is the emotional involvement in a conflict creating anxiety, tenseness, frustration, or hostility. So after they perceive the situation, they then react in various manners, and these could include anxiety, tenseness, frustration, or hostility, or otherwise. Stage 3 pertains to conflict handling intentions. These could be competing, which is a desire to satisfy one's interests regardless of the impact on the other party to the conflict. Next is collaborating. It is a situation in which the parties to a conflict each desire to satisfy fully the concerns of all parties. Avoiding or avoidance of the situation. It is the desire to withdraw from or suppress a conflict. Accommodating the conflict. It is the willingness of one party in a conflict to place the opponent's interests above his or her own interests. Then there is compromising, which means a situation in which each party to a conflict is willing to give up something. Stage 4 is the behavior stage, in which the various groups and individuals behave in different manners for the resolution of the conflict. Now, conflict resolution is the use of resolution and stimulation techniques to achieve the desired level of conflict. Conflict resolution techniques are problem solving, subordinate goals. Subordinate goals are the goals which are subordinate to the accomplishment of the higher goals. For example, to be trained in the latest automobile technologies is the subordinate goals that contributes to the highest goal of the organization to be the leader in automobile industry. Expansion of resources, it is self-evident, and avoidance of harmful and otherwise not desirable activities. Individuals and groups within the organization also behave for the conflict resolution through communication, bringing in outsiders for presenting the fresh point of view, restructuring the organization by removing the roadblocks, appointing a devil's advocate. Devil's advocate is a person or team that defends the rival point of view. Devil's advocate is also called the red team. Then there is smoothing. Smoothing is removing the friction in the organization for the resolution of the conflict. Then compromise, this is self-evident, authoritative command, altering the human variable and altering the structural variables. Stage 5 is the final stage of conflict resolution, and it leads to outcomes or results by creating a functional conflict in the organization. As I discussed earlier, a functional conflict is necessary and is good for the organization. It leads to reward, dissent, and punish conflict avoiders. That is, the criticism is encouraged, that is, positive criticism is encouraged, and those who try to push the issue under the rug are punished. They are the conflict avoiders. And functional outcomes from the conflict are increased group performance, improved quality of decisions, stimulation of creativity and innovation, encouragement of interest and curiosity, provision of a medium for problem solving, and creation of an environment for self-evaluation and change. If a dysfunctional conflict arises out of the situation, it will lead to development of discontent, reduced group effectiveness, retarded communication, reduced group cohesiveness, and infighting among group members overcomes group goals. Negotiation is a process in which two or more parties exchange goods or services and attempt to agree on the exchange rate for them. BATNA is a negotiation tool. It stands for the best alternative to a negotiated agreement. The lowest acceptable value, that is outcome, to an individual for a negotiated agreement. There are two bargaining strategies, which are distributive bargaining and integrative bargaining. Distributive bargaining is negotiation that seeks to divide up a fixed amount of resources, that is to say, a win-lose situation. Integrative bargaining is negotiation that seeks one or more settlements that can create a win-win situation. Let us see how distributive bargaining stands against integrative bargaining. Distributive bargaining results in getting as much pie as possible, that is, as much of the demands are accepted against the demands of the opponent. Integrative bargaining expands the pie. It expands the resources. Distributive bargaining results in a win-lose situation. and integrative bargaining leads to a win-win situation. In distributive bargaining, the focus is on achieving a high position, whereas integrative bargaining results in securing the interests. Distributive bargaining results in low information sharing, whereas in integrative bargaining, the information sharing is high. Duration of relationships in distributive bargaining is short term. In integrative bargaining, it is long term. You can decide yourself which is more profitable or more advantageous. Intercultural negotiations. Italians, Germans, and French don't soften up adjectives with praise before they criticize. Americans do this, and to many Europeans this seems manipulative. Israelis, accustomed to fast paced meetings, have no patience for American small talk. British executives often complain that their US counterparts chatter too much. Indian executives are used to interrupting one another. When Americans listen without asking for clarification or posing questions, Indians feel the Americans aren't paying attention. Americans often mix their business and personal lives. They think nothing, for instance, about asking a colleague a question like, "How was your weekend?" In many cultures, such a question is seen as intrusive because business and private lives are totally compartmentalized. Third party negotiations are carried out under various forms. First one is the mediator. He is a neutral third party who facilitates a negotiated solution by using reasoning, persuasion, and suggestions for alternatives. Arbitrator is a third party to a negotiation who has the authority to dictate an agreement. Conciliator is a trusted third party who provides an informal communication link between the negotiator and the opponent. Consultant is an impartial third party skilled in conflict management who attempts to facilitate creative problem solving through communication and analysis. That was all about conflict management. In the next tutorial, that is the organizational behavior tutorial 12, I'll talk to you about power and politics. Till then, bye bye.